If you have a story you'd like to share with the channel, go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to send it my way. Or email it to me at astheravendreams@gmail.com. Hi, Raven. First off, I wanted to say how much I love your stories. I've been listening to your videos to fall asleep, and they always do the trick. But on to the glitch. This literally just happened a couple of weeks ago, and it's still so funny and baffling to me. I had asked my grandmother to get me from school and drive me to Target, so I could pick up a gift for my boyfriend. While shopping, I remembered Father's Day was in 2 weeks, so I decided to get my dad a little gift. I found the perfect gift for him, a bright red and green hot sauce plushie in the middle of the stuffed animal aisle. Well, my dad loves hot sauce and plushes, so I bought it immediately. I got back into my grandpa's car and we started heading home. In the car, my grandpa started talking about how him and my grandma were going to move to another state, more than 10 hours away, towards the end of the year. This information was so sudden and shocking to me that I started to cry. My grandparents had only ever lived around 5 minutes away from me my entire life, so the realization that they were going to be gone soon was jarring and made me very emotional. I used my dad's gift to dry my tears because there were no tissues in the car, and it was soft enough to use against my face. My grandpa calmed me down, saying how, since I'm going off to college soon anyways, I wouldn't even notice they were gone since they would be back for Christmas and summers, like me. And that made me feel better, so I stopped my tears and asked my grandpa if I could drive the rest of the way home. I'm making it my goal to get my license before college, and my grandpa always lets me practice in his car. This is where the glitch happens. I gently sat my Father's Day gift and the thing for my boyfriend in the back middle seat of the car, and switched seats with my grandfather. Only he opens the driver's side door to get to the passenger seat, while I climb over to the driver's seat still being in the car. Then I start my drive home. On the ride home, my grandpa asked me what I got from Target. I explained to him that it's in the back seat, but he says he doesn't see it. He's pretty old, so he probably doesn't know what to look for, so I clarify, saying, the red and green hot sauce plushie in the middle seat. My grandpa is still very confused, so I tell him I'll just show it to him when we get to my house. Meanwhile, I'm more confused, wondering how he could miss something so obvious. It's such a strange plushie with obnoxious coloring that it would be hard to miss. Around 2 minutes later, I pull into my driveway and go get my stuff from the back seat, when I realize that the Father's Day hot sauce plush is nowhere to be found. Where it should be in the middle seat is just empty space, and the gift I got from my boyfriend. I start looking around the car frantically, when my grandpa suggests that maybe I left it at Target. I explained to him that it couldn't be possible, as I remember drying my tears with it on the way home from Target because of him talking about the big move. Something clicked in his brain, and he realized that he had indeed seen it while I was crying. He also remembered that I had set it in the back seat when we switched spots in the car. So, together, me and my grandpa start searching the car for this gift. We checked under the seats, in the trunk, even in the little cup holders on the side of the car door. Everywhere, but we could not find it. We get back into the car and drove back to the place where we had switched seats, because maybe it had fallen out of the car through the doors when we had switched. We looked all around the area and could not find it anywhere. I gave up at this point, and just drove back home telling my grandpa that I would go back to Target to buy a new one later. This whole thing confused me throughout the rest of the day. Again, I have to point out that this was a bright red and green hot sauce plush. Something very obscure with loud colors. Extremely hard to miss. I like to think of myself as a logical person, And the most logical thing that I could think could have happened was that the plush fell out of the car while my grandpa and I were switching seats. But that would be nearly impossible. The plush was in the middle seat of the back, nowhere near any of the doors that opened. Also, if it had fallen out, either my grandpa or I would have definitely seen it on the ground, since, again, I'm emphasizing how hard this thing is to miss. I might have chalked it up to me being crazy, and that I had never actually put it in the back of the car, but the assurance from my grandpa that he had indeed seen it in the back seat as well made me absolutely positive that it had to have been there. It's as if it had just vanished into thin air. I did eventually go back to Target to get another one of these plushies as a gift, and on my way home, I made sure not to take my eyes off of it once, just in case it disappeared again. Overall, this whole ordeal keeps confusing me more and more each day when I go over the events. But for now, I can only explain it as a glitch in the Matrix. Dear Raven, thank you for your glitch stories. They really helped my insomnia. I'll document and send over other glitch stories, but this is from this morning. I live in a 125-year-old cottage on the West Coast. Although there's a heating unit in the living room, other spaces don't get the heat, so I've supplemented with 3 small space heaters. I found a well-priced model with good reviews, so they're all the same. Earlier this week, one of the heaters stopped working. The replacement unit arrived yesterday. This morning, I unboxed the new heater and was in the process of swapping them out. When I moved the old heater, I noticed the carpet beneath it was dusty and prepared to do a quick vacuum. As I took the old heater to place by the front door, I noticed there was already a heater sitting there. What the hell? I checked the other 2 heaters to see if I had moved one and forgotten. No. Then, I lined up all 3 heaters and took pics. 2 were visibly used while 1 was still pristine. I decided to test both of the used heaters, and they were both dead. When today began, I had 1 broken heater and 1 replacement. If a broken heater was sitting near the front door, I would have noticed. The Matrix blessed me with an additional broken heater. Dear Matrix, next time could you just leave a bag of cash? Thank you. Hi Raven. I've been listening to you for a couple of years. I've wanted to submit a story for a while, but there are so many instances to choose from, some of which take a lot of explaining, and I only have my phone to type on these days. Luckily, the universe sent me a very straightforward and very helpful glitch the other week that I would like to share with you. I recently bought 2 pet rats. They're the most energetic, exploratory, clumsy little rats I've ever owned. I have an old couch that I let my rats run around on for exercise. I've had this couch for at least 15 years. I've had 4 other rats in the last 5 years who were very happy running around on this couch, without ever falling off of it or getting lost inside of it. One of the new rats fell off of it twice in the first week, and it was a bit of a struggle coaxing her out from underneath it, because the couch is low to the ground and has 2 fold-out seats with lots of bars and material and stuff for her to hide in. Needless to say, I was watching her very carefully after that to make sure she didn't fall off again. I have an old jumper on the couch for the rats to hide in, so they're nice and cozy and don't feel too exposed. I saw them go under there and assumed they were both sleeping. When I lifted up the jumper to put them back in their cage, there was only the 1 rat. The clumsy one was missing. I knew she hadn't fallen off again. I'd been watching the whole time because I was so paranoid about it. Of course, I checked under the couch anyway, and all around the rest of the room. Nothing. Then I started feeling around the sewn-in cushion in the couch, thinking maybe she had chewed a hole into them or something. I should have heard that happening if that was the case, but I couldn't think of anything else. And that's when I found a space in the corner of the couch, between the seat and the back, big enough to squeeze my hand into and certainly big enough for a rat to explore. I stuck my hand in, felt around, and there she was. I carefully unfolded the seat, thinking that she must have made her way to the bars and material underneath. No, she was inside the back of the couch, and I had no idea how to get her out of there. I didn't know the space was there, or I would have been sure to block it off. Out of 6 rats in 5 years, she was the only one to find it. I would have just waited and hoped for her to come out on her own if it came to that, but I was panicking a bit in the moment, and having visions of her chewing through the inside of the couch, getting beyond my reach, getting stuck, and me having to cut her out of there. It's an old couch, but I like it, and I didn't want to have to do that. I also didn't want to risk hurting my rat by aggressively pulling her through the tight squeeze while she was still in reach. I went around the back of the couch to get an idea of how and where I even could cut into it if I had to. That's when I saw the Velcro at the bottom of it. The Velcro was holding down a flap of material. I lifted up the flap and there was my rat, sitting there, looking at me. I didn't know that Velcro was there, that the flap was there, that it was apparently designed for retrieving things dropped into the space between the cushions, into the space in the back of the couch, which I also didn't know was there. Did I mention I've had this couch for 15 years? I'm not the most observant person in the world, so I'm willing to accept that I just didn't notice any of these things, as unlikely as that seems. What I don't get, though, is how no other rat ever found that space, or why it didn't have anything else in it after all this time, except for one inquisitive rat. No one ever sits at that end of the couch, so there's not much opportunity for anyone to drop anything down there, but no rat stuff. No food, tissues, droppings I missed cleaning up because I didn't know it was there. I checked the flap behind my own fold-out seat, expecting a treasure trove of missing pens and jewelry. At the very least, I expected a lot of dry cereal, which I eat in that seat almost daily, so I can share it with the rats. No pens, no jewelry, no cereal, just 2 little scraps of tissue I had used as earplugs, a crumpled ADHD pill capsule, and 1 fossilized rat dropping. It felt like such a small, deliberate assortment of items. Like the Matrix saying, "You know you're crazy, these spaces and easy access Velcro flap have been here the whole time. Just look how old that stuff is. Now go take your medication and stop listening to your crazy thoughts, you crazy." Well, I probably am, but at least I got my rat back safely without having to cut open my couch. So, I'll definitely call this a win. Thanks, universe. And thank you, Raven, for reading this. Hi, Raven. I'm a new listener to your podcast, and in particular the Glitch in the Matrix stories. They've reminded me of glitches I've experienced throughout my childhood, and I thought I would share. The first one I can remember, I was around 10. I'd gone shopping for clothes with my mom and brother. We each picked out a pair of pajamas, got them, left, and went home. Later that night, we went into the shopping bags to get our pajamas, and they were completely different. Completely different color, patterns, and graphics. The 3 of us just kind of sat there extremely confused for a few moments, because none of us had gone through the bag prior to leaving the store. And eventually we all just forgot about it. Fast forward a few years later, I was around maybe 13. I woke up one morning. It was Saturday and no one was home, so it was up to me to walk my dogs. Now, I grew up in an apartment complex with one large backyard for the entire building. At the time, I had 2 dogs. Both have since passed on. Only one of the dogs required a leash, The other one was well trained enough where he was trusted to roam on his own, but I still always kept an eye on him. Anyway, we get to the backyard. I have the leash in my hand and the one dog is on it. He's doing his thing, and I'm watching my other dog run all the way around to the end of the backyard, maybe like 85 meters. I watched him stop, do his business, and continue to walk until he just faded away. I was extremely confused, and it didn't make sense, and I thought that I was imagining things, until I turned around, and there he was. My dog, sitting behind me, just chilling in the grass. There was no way he could have run back towards me and been behind me without me seeing. Fast forward to a few months later, and I'm spending the weekend at my dad's house. I had realized I forgot my headphones at home. I was annoyed but decided to look around the house to find a pair to use until I went back home. I found a pair of white Sony headphones in a random drawer and used those for the weekend. Since I found those, I figured I would just continue to do so and leave them at my dad's house so that I had a pair there. I left them on my desk at my dad's house and went home. A few days later, my mom was doing laundry when she called me into the laundry room and told me to stop leaving headphones in my pockets. Confused, I told her that I didn't, and she proceeded to pull the headphones that I know for sure I left at my dad's out of my pant pocket. And it was definitely those headphones. They were identical down to the faded yellow stain below the right earpiece, and the pants that she pulled them out of were jeans. And I hardly wore jeans. I know for a fact I didn't wear them at my dad's house. I eventually shrugged it off, took the headphones, and put them back on my desk at my house. The next weekend I was back at my dad's house, and there they are, the white headphones. Only I left them back at my house. So out of nowhere, an identical pair just appeared. But of course, when I went home later that weekend, the other pair was gone. So, somewhere along the line, a second pair just spawned and despawned, I guess. Another significant occurrence was when I was like 14 or so. Me and my mom would watch one of our favorite shows together. One day we sat down, watched the next episode, and then both went to sleep. The next day we went to watch it again when she put on the same episode. And when I said we already watched it, she was confused and said that we hadn't. I then proceeded to say the lines of the characters before they were said and predicted what would happen, because we already watched it. But she was adamant that we hadn't, and just chalked it up to deja vu. But I know we watched it. I again shrugged this off. About a year later, 2 more glitches happened on the same day. I got a phone call from one of my best friends regarding plans that we had made later in the day, where I was planning on sleeping over. Around 5 minutes into the conversation, I told him that I had to let my dogs out real quick, and then feed them, and this is something that only takes me 5 minutes tops. When I got back to the phone, it said the call was ongoing for 9 minutes. My friend, being confused, asked me what took so long. I told him I was only gone for 5 minutes, but he said that it was more like 15. He proceeded to tell me that his phone said the call had been going for 18 and a half minutes, and that it went to static while I was gone. We were both confused, and after a while we hung up, and I went over 2 hours later. Super late into the night, we decided to shoot some BB guns. We didn't want to wake his family, so we stayed on his back patio, and on the left side of the yard, as quietly as possible. After half an hour, we got bored and went back inside, when I realized I left one of the mags to my BB gun outside on the patio table. Being too tired, I was just gonna get it in the morning. The next morning, we went outside and it was gone. We were confused and double-checked to make sure that no one else went outside to get it, and it was confirmed that no one else had. We searched the entire patio and left side of the yard that we were on. To our surprise, the mag was 60 meters away on the complete opposite side of the yard by some plants. And it's not like the wind could have picked it up. because it was a calm night, and the mag was full of metal and around 2 pounds, so it was quite hefty. It's as if it teleported. All of these incidents occurred within the span of 2 years and seemingly out of nowhere. That was the last one to occur and was 6 years ago. I wonder from time to time if I'll experience another glitch in this lifetime. Hello, long-time listener, first-time submitter here. I love how you tell the stories. It always gives me something interesting to listen to while I work. Well, thank you. I've been contemplating sharing other stories on here and always tell myself they aren't interesting enough. But this one just happened for the 3rd time, so I figured I would share. Around March of 2024, I got the first of these calls. It was a collect call from a prison in my home state. I assumed it was my older brother, whom I cut contact with. I'm sure you can guess why, as my first thought was him in prison. Out of a sense of sympathy, and I suppose still wanting the relationship that we once shared back, I decided to answer. To my surprise, it was a person I didn't recognize. Neither their name nor their voice sounded familiar. Apparently, my contact was in his phone, and not recognizing my name, he decided to call and confirm if he actually knew me or not. Obviously, we didn't, so he deleted my contact. Okay, strange. But I was sure there was some explanation for it. Until several months later, it happened again, this time from a prison in Minnesota. I almost didn't answer as I found it strange. But I remembered my friend who moved there. While it would be strange for him to be in trouble with the law, I decided to give it the benefit of the doubt and answer. Once again, however, I was met with a similar situation as the first call. Different name and voice, but yet again, someone whom I've never met. At that point, I was weirded out, but still trying to make excuses for the strangeness. However, just now, I got the 3rd call of its kind, this time from a prison in my current state. Again, I answered thinking, could a friend have gotten into trouble? There's no way. But decided to answer because now I had to know. Yet again, it was someone I've never met. They didn't recognize me, nor I them. At this point, the only explanation I could think of is maybe a parallel me is at least really into the bad boy type, and giving our number out to everyone. If not, into causing chaos herself. And for some reason, everyone she seems to share our number with in that world reflects into the phone version of them here. I like to call myself a skeptical believer, so if anyone has other theories as to what is happening, I'm all ears. But the fact it's happening 3 times is very strange. If you found this one interesting and want to hear some of my other stories, like about the ghost cat or the Spanish male opera singing ghost, or even just some of my creepy encounters with the living, please let me know. For me, it's just my day-to-day pretty much, but if you find them interesting, I'm happy to share. Please do. So, I submitted a story about these woods before. It was the one where I picked up an arrowhead that I found, and my parents' house ended up haunted temporarily. If you remember me now, howdy. If you don't, well, buckle in. I would like to preface this by saying, as a child, I had an absolutely amazing sense of direction. This was before the time of GPS, and I didn't have a mobile phone. I always thought this woods was normal, but I was sitting there talking to my husband and showing him where I used to walk in the woods on Google Maps, and I realized this. It doesn't exactly connect as I remember. And I walked this path so many times that I know exactly where I was and where I was going. You would think maybe I would just not be able to see it on Google Maps, but I remember the area is huge and the sky is open. So you would definitely be able to see it. That, and Google Maps hasn't updated my hometown in 13 plus years. Also, in addition to having a great sense of direction, I knew which way I was going because, after all, I needed to know how to get home. So here's the trail. Every 2 weeks or once a month, I would walk this route. I start the walk by taking the trail between my parents' yard and my neighbor Pam's yard that cuts through the woods. I would stop at Patricia's house, say hi to her and her sweet Rottweiler pup named Logan. The rest of the trail was down a gravel paved road by her house that goes into the same woods. But it's less of a trail at this point and more of a dirt bike path. Gotta stay on the trail or wear long pants in the Midwest unless you want to end up with poison ivy, poison oak, or poison sumac. If you know, you know. So eventually the trail becomes more of a walking path, but it's clearly cut out by people. It was a mostly straight trail that only curved slightly around an abandoned shed. Spooky story about this thing coming soon. Eventually you would come across a creek. It was never more than a few inches deep, and I could easily get across it. The trail then curves to the left and down a hill after this, and then continues on for a while. Briefly before I arrive to this area with mounds of rocks, construction materials, it turns back to the right. This area was clearly right below the road my parents would take on their way back from our grandparents' house when they wanted to go through the nearly non-existent town named Tennessee that neighbored my hometown. Now here's the kicker. Apparently there's no woods in the areas that I walked. I can definitely find exactly where I went monthly, but the thing is, how exactly did I get there? There's no way that I could have ended up there. You would assume that maybe they just cut down some trees, but as I said, the map hasn't been updated in 13 years. You thought I was done? Well, guess again. There's another story that connects to this one. So, as I mentioned, I took the trail monthly, if not more. One day I wanted to take my friend Sarah to the spot so we could chill and discuss things my parent wouldn't allow us to discuss at home. Witchcraft and stuff. And I took the trail exactly, but this time I couldn't find it. It wasn't there. At that age, I assumed I had taken a wrong turn somewhere and retracted my steps, but I couldn't find it. So, I guess my questions are, 1, how did I get there? 2, why couldn't I find it when I wanted to take Sarah there? And 3, is this a stable portal thingy in my parents' woods? I don't understand, and I'm not going to pretend that I understand. And I acknowledge that I probably sound absolutely insane, but I know what I experienced, and I want to know if anyone else has experienced it. I promise if I ever go back there, I'll update if I find it again. And I'll definitely map out the trail. Apparently the woods in my parents' backyard is weirder than I thought. This was a few years ago. My mom was dating this guy who lived a few hours away from us. We went to Mom's house every other weekend for custody agreements. We had just been driving like a normal day. Me and my sister, 3 years older than me, were in the back seat. As we go into the next town, I tell my mom, "Hey, I thought we were supposed to go through Chile, town." She was confused because we were supposed to be in Chile, but we were in the next town. I had no idea how this happened. I was looking out the window, and I would have noticed if we were in the town. I grabbed my mom's phone to look up this town, and there was no evidence it ever existed. I was super confused by this point. I knew that this town existed. I put the phone down and went into my own thoughts. After the weekend was over, we went through the town, and I was confused because I was thinking about what had happened all weekend. The town kind of just disappeared. This occurred a lot afterwards. We still talk about it. Was this just a glitch, or did we go through the town without noticing it? I really don't know what happened exactly. So that, my friends, was a collection of this week's Glitch in the Matrix stories. Stories about the weird, strange, and bizarre things that occur in our existence. Stories that highlight the anomalies, the intriguing... I got nothing. I'm reusing words here. Yeah. So as you can tell, sinus issues again. It happens. It happened, I'm assuming, because we were driving air conditioning in my face for like 6 hours twice. So I'll be okay. Sorry the video's late because of it. But seriously, on Sunday and for most of yesterday, I had no voice. Like, my voice completely went. I have more of a voice today, thankfully. So just drinking a lot of water and doing what I can. You can have some tea at some point, but it's a little hot for tea, so I don't know. Bring back the humidity, which is not something I thought I would say. I need to get my steam inhaler out too, don't I? Need to figure out where that is. It's packed in a box still. Huh. It's definitely down here. I know that much. I'm gonna have to think on that. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this collection of stories. If you did, please do hit that like button. That'd be amazing of you. If you're new to the channel and liked what you heard, please consider subscribing. That'd also be very awesome of you. I'd appreciate that tremendously. And if you're wanting to support the channel further, you can go to the Patreon or hit the join button down below the video, where for as little as $1 a month, you get early access to content like this and other things depending on how you sign up and what you sign up for. You can also do a super thanks, which is a tip to the channel. Never expected, always appreciated. You can also be amazing. And that's it. Just be amazing. It's non-negotiable. You have no choice. What else? Nothing. I think that's it, actually. Yeah. Oh, send in your stories to astheravendreams.com or email astheravendreams@gmail.com. Or listen onto the platforms like Audible, Spotify, etc. You can find all that information on the website, once again, astheravendreams.com. Now, moving through this outro really quickly, sorry about that. The other thing we do is the word of the week. We do that typically on glitch videos near the beginning of the week. On the screen right now, and several moments prior to now, is a collection of all the screenshots I took of people who used last week's word of the week, which was ebullient. Ebullient. Cannot speak. I knew I said it wrong the first time, but, you know. Anyways, all these amazing people went above and beyond, used the word in a sentence in the comments, and got featured as such. Yeah. The amazing people that do that help the videos do better, and I hope that you guys know that I really do appreciate you. So, this week, the word of the week is an easier one. It's a fun one. Somebody asked me to do defenestration, but I actually already did that word back in 2023, so it's not going to be defenestration. This week, the word of the week will be dapper. D-A-P-P-E-R. Neat and trim in appearance, very spruce and stylish, alert and lively in movement and manners. So if you're dapper, you're the dude in the tuxedo, dancing on the middle of the floor with your hair slicked back, looking like a penguin. I don't know why a penguin. I don't know why I was Southern. I have no idea. Use dapper in a sentence, get featured next week on the end of the video for the word of the week. Yeah. Hope I see you again here soon, friends, but until then, remember, you are loved, you are valid, you are important, you're the best that you can be, don't forget it. And until next time, much love and sleep well.